I'm Ray Allegrezza with IFRA and editor at, hold on, see, now you're making me nervous. I never get nervous. This is weird.
This
They
is true.
really want to take everything. There we go. I'm Ray Allegrezza with IFRA and editor at large for Home News Now, and welcome to the next installment of The Last Word. For those of you who might not be familiar with the program, the concept is pretty simple. We find thought leaders and we talk to them about their business, their views on the industry, and what they see going on in the market. Today, I'm very delighted to have Justin Robichaud with us, who is an entrepreneur. He's got an interesting story, and he's got a very unique company in Gardner, Mass. So I want you to join me welcoming my friend here. For those of us who may not know you, tell me a little bit about who you are and tell me about this company that we've been talking about.
Yes, of course. Thanks for having me, Ray.
My
I
pleasure.
appreciate it. So the name of my business is Would You Build It? We are based out of Gardner, Mass, like you had mentioned. Gardner is historically known as the furniture capital of New England and the chair capital of the world. What has happened over, decades, so many manufacturers have gone overseas. And you see it right here in High Point as well. And you guys are holding on to, that stature as strong as you can, but in Gardner, it's all but gone. So what happened with Would You Build It is we were trying to bring that notation back to the city for which it belongs. We build heirloom furniture, handcrafted, and we don't use any CNC machines or anything of that like. It's all standard machinery, standard tools, and it's skilled artisans to create our furniture. And that's basically, in a nutshell, what we're trying to do up in Gardner.
All right. You know the old chestnut about necessity is the mother of invention. Let's talk a little bit about what started the company. I read in some of your collateral material, it started out with a garbage bag hanging over the door.
It's so funny because it's hard to say that this is a rags to riches story, but if you wanted to lightly label it that way, that's exactly what it is. What had happened was my wife, she was pregnant with my firstborn, and we were literally hanging a trash bag off of a doorknob in the kitchen. Didn't have a trash barrel or anything like that. And my wife said to me, "Can you please do something about this?" And so lo and behold, I sat down, drew up some plans, didn't have two pennies to rub together. So I went up into the attic of the house that we were renting at the time, took the floorboards that had probably 100 years worth of soot and ash and such on it, took those floorboards out of the attic, sanded them down, cut them up, built something. Lo and behold, we have our trash bin. The real punchline to that, though, is a couple months later, Oprah was interviewing the CEO at the time of Etsy. And, most people know of Etsy at this point. It's a very intricate website for handcrafted items. But at that time, Etsy was unknown to basically everybody. This is back in 2012. And what had happened was I said, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to take a picture of this, post it on Etsy, and see what happens." And the rest is history.
That's a great story. And by the way, I found your landlord and he knows you're here today. He wants to talk to you about a couple of missing boards in the attic. So you started out, now were you a woodworking guy? Had you done that in the past?
So I did various pieces of construction, but not furniture making whatsoever. I do come from a long history of in my family of woodworkers, fine furniture makers, so on and so forth. So my father always just told me it's just in my blood.
Yeah, obviously it is. So you put it on Etsy and then people start responding. And then did you find the workers? I mean, did the response from Etsy say, "I got a business here, let's make this happen"?
I had a full-time job, and what had happened was I sold that first piece within a couple of hours. I reinvested that money into purchasing more product, taking another picture, and it just kind of materialized from there. I was only building trash bins, wooden trash bins, for the kitchen, for about, I want to say a good 6 years, just as a part-time side hustle. And then back in 2019, it was one of those moments, you just had to jump. I knew I was onto something.
You hit a tipping point.
I did, and what had happened was I had moved on from my full-time job, took that risk, ended up working for myself, by myself. I would build a product, do the sales. I was even the janitor. You had to do everything, and then we also, I would also deliver. So there were moments where I would work until 2 a.m. on a Friday night just to finish what I was doing while the van was warming up, getting ready to go. Jump in the van at 2 a.m., get to places like Ohio by 10 a.m., not 11 a.m., make my deliveries, and get back home in time, the next day to be with the family.
Well, we have to dive deeper on that, because one of the questions is, what makes your company unique? Now, I've heard crazy stories from people that you have delivered pieces that you've made hundreds of miles away, maybe even further. What's the furthest that you've delivered a piece of furniture that you've built, and why the hell would you do something like that?
Our business model is unlike any other out there, and that's what makes us truly unique. So not only are we designing and manufacturing our furniture, but we also personally deliver it throughout the country. So we're not just talking about a couple of 100 miles. We've delivered personally as far as the far reaches. You see out of Washington, Arizona, all different corners. We've now delivered to 49 out of the 50 states, and that includes Alaska.
And you're doing this because
if you want it done right, you do it yourself. And there's also a full service aspect to it. And this is once again the reason why I feel like we are unique compared to everyone else is the customer, they're ordering a piece of furniture that means something to them. It's not coming in a box with a book of assembly instructions, and then after a year or two, it falls apart. What they're getting is from beginning to end. They design it with us. It's made to order. We stay in touch with them because we are the ones that are dealing with it from beginning to end. We deliver it to them. We bring it into their home like glove delivery. We set it up for them. We answer any questions that they may have. So it's a full service aspect that they are getting, which you just don't see nowadays.
all right, now there's another point that you never hear of, and it's, if I didn't ask you to talk about this, I would be remiss, and you'd be selling yourself short. From the material that you've shown me, there are stock items, but talk to me about the fact that as a customer, obviously that's got to be how you got the name of the company. Would you build it? Yes, you would. So I come to you and I want this one of a kind. This is my vision. And then what happens from there?
From there, I like to make the joke that it's almost like building a Domino's pizza. We have over 10,000 variations that you can choose from on each one of our models. So while there's only on our end for manufacturing it, minor tweaks here and there, the customer essentially gets exactly what they envision. They have the ability to, sizing, overhang for seating, drawers, you name it. We have so many different features, hardware colors, so on and so forth. So we're pretty certain that the customer will eventually end up locking in exactly what they envisioned for their home, and then having that be in their home for generations to come.
So how large of a vision could I have as a customer if I said I wanted you to build me a home office wall or something large? Could you do that? Would you do that?
So currently we focus primarily on kitchen islands. I keep telling myself and our staff that we are going to expand the portfolio. Just when we feel like we're getting to the point where we might be able to take on a few more items, we just get busier and busier and busier. So until the day that we can really ramp up production and lock in on those, we are a little, I don't want to say stuck, where we are right now.
I would call it focus.
Yeah,
You just got
focus.
a Sharp focus.
And then we also, can streamline that niche market of handcrafted kitchen islands as well. So being able to focus on those items, is not necessarily a bad thing either.
So with all the talk about the necessity for marketing and social media and a web presence, you're busier than hell. Is it word of mouth? You built something for me, I tell somebody how are you, harvesting your base of customers? Why are you so darn busy at a time when a lot of the industry you could hear sucking sounds from the wind being sucked out of the business?
Well, first and foremost, I'm grateful for everything that we've become. I'd like to think that it's a mixture of having the right approach, being true to ourselves, being human, having our customer service, being in touch with customers. We're not just, you're not just going onto an online website, ordering something, and then you just it shows up at your door. I would like to think that our approach and our business model is so unique that we're going down that path, that rabbit hole, that's working for us. And so as long as that works for us, we're just gonna keep going for it.
All right, I've got to dig deeper. Let's share with the audience. What are some of the unique things you do? The fact that you custom build and then deliver it personally, you and your team, that's unique. What else? There's more to this story.
It's literally handcrafted. We receive raw lumber and we fabricate each and every piece, part, everything that you see minus the hardware comes from all of our own hands. There's something to say about the fact that it's being built through an entire team of employees and skilled artisans and such.
So, you're kind of saluting the history of Gardner, Mass. As kind of being a hub of furniture. How has Gardner, Mass. responded to the love?
It's absolutely amazing. The community support, just last week, I had about a dozen legislators, local state reps, senators, mayors, city council, you name it, come to our shop, gave a speech, put them through a tour of our facilities, and then just getting, I've never been one that needed to be, get a pat on the back, so to speak. But it also feels good when somebody does pat you on the back. And getting that type of support from the local community has been amazing.
So if somebody said to you, Justin, what was the vision when you did this? Obviously it's custom built, it's made in America. Were there other things? When you say I'm gonna launch this business, what did you want it to be? What did you want it to stand for?
Well, staying true to ourselves, being handcrafted. I wanted it, as time progressed and as we grow, I realized that there is a need. It seems like there is a swaying factor. I feel as if customers are getting fed up with the subpar materials and furniture that's coming from overseas and you name it, particle board and such. I think customers are starting to understand that there's a lot of value to having something that they can keep for generations, as opposed to getting something that's subpar that they may have to replace in a couple of years.
All right, now that just prompted another question. There's been and it's probably a false assumption, especially with the younger consumer, that they want just good enough furniture. They don't want heirloom furniture. So the fact that you are attracting people that do want heirloom, do appreciate, do want something that they're going to keep. Who's your customer? Are they dinosaurs like me? Are they young kids? Are they all over the place?
I have no answer to that. It's so funny because just when you think that you can figure out a certain demographic, something changes. And my customers are from all over the country. It's a little bit of everybody. But there is one thing that they all have in common is that they all appreciate the artistry that's behind it. You know, when they find out that it's made by hand,
Mhm.
as opposed to coming in a box and putting it together, that is the deciding factor. I also understand that you'll always have those other customers that are okay with going to a big department store and purchasing something, you know, for lesser amounts of money and cheaper materials. Those aren't my customers. My customers are literally the ones that appreciate everything that goes into it.
All right, in every business, there's got to be upsides and downsides, right? So what I'm hearing is the upside is the handcrafted story, the made in America. It's one of, there's a connection. What are some of the challenges of being a small niche business in the world of one size fits everybody in
Right.
furniture?
That's a great question. I'd say one of the biggest challenges is we do live in a world of everyone wanted it yesterday. And because we're creating made to order furniture, we need lead time. And with lead time, we can't be in Seattle, Washington and Miami, Florida at the same exact time. So being a small mom and pop shop, that can be one of our challenges is we don't have dozens of trucks at all times going to different hubs and different distribution centers and warehouses to be in all different places all at once. So that would be one of our major challenges is being able to logistically figure out how we can make customer in Seattle happy at the same time as customer in Miami happy.
Good. Then what's the best way that you have found to connect with the customer and show your product? You mentioned Etsy, the online stuff. What about your own website, or how do you distribute the product? I guess my question would be.
Right. So the majority of our sales are on Etsy. We are currently, from my understanding, it's not true public knowledge, but we are the largest furniture company on Etsy itself. But we also have our own website, wouldyobuildit.com. And then we have the various social media platforms as well. In Etsy, believe it or not, they have a very good marketing program, which it's hard to say no when, you know, one of the largest online sellers, Etsy, behind Amazon and eBay, mind you,
Right.
can market your own products for you. Take it.
So as a percentage, what kind of growth have you seen since you launched the company?
Oh, goodness. That is a tough question. But year over year, since 2019, when I hired my first employee, we're well up over 1,000%.
Is the best you could do? That's amazing. That's great.
Yeah, it's and to bring it back to hiring the employee, the hardest thing, and you know, for any, you know, potential entrepreneurs out there that are watching this, the hardest thing for me was letting go, was saying, I can't do this alone anymore. I need to hire an employee. I need help. But once I opened myself to hiring my first employee, the floodgates opened wide up for me and allowed me to focus and say, you know what, there is opportunity here. Otherwise, if I had just kept it me, myself, and I would just be spinning my wheels when I know, and I was well aware that there was a lot of opportunity out there.
All right, here's a good question for you. At least I think it's a good question. As a highly focused niche business, what's the one thing that home furnishings, the 500-pound gorilla, can learn from a company like yours? And then what's one thing that you've learned from the 500-pound gorilla?
That's a good question. Be real. Be real. Don't, you know, too many robotic pieces nowadays, without humanizing things. The way that our business model is set up is that as we grow, the jobs grow. Where the big name companies out there, the big gorilla, as you call it, as they grow, they find ways to lose employees. It works the opposite way. So that's where they can learn from us by that growth status. In terms of what we can learn from them is high volume. They do have avenues and techniques on being able to have extremely high volume. Whereas right now we are a small mom and pop. So if I could learn ways to, we have the scalability opportunity to be as big as the big gorilla with our business model. So between here and there to become one of them and to be in our own unique category, we wouldn't be competitors. We would just be side by side as large as them, but with a different business model than them.
Good. Kind of last question before you get the last word on final thoughts. Where do you hope the company will be in 5 years?
5 years.
What do you think it might look like?
I've always said that if I was ever able to have Would You Build It have a Super Bowl commercial, that's the day that we've made it. So whether that's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, I don't have the answer to that. I don't have the crystal ball, but as long as we keep staying true to ourselves, that's the direction that we're going in. And if we revisit in 5 years and we have a Super Bowl commercial, then mission accomplished.
Absolutely, that's great. All right, so in keeping with the name of the podcast, you get the last word. Any final thoughts about what we've talked about, the industry in general?
Well, you know what's funny is just a couple years ago, I thought I was alone. And what I mean by that is not alone in the sense that I was working alone, in the sense that I never realized until, recent history that I'm not the only one out there. And when I've opened myself up to and networked with other manufacturers out there, it's been amazing because there are a lot of others like me out there and like my company that are just trying to do their thing and trying to make a name for themselves as well. So for me, it's been very enlightening, especially, being a member with IFRA and, and other associations of the like, to realize that there are a lot of others out there that are just trying to feed their families just like we are.
A great story, a great guy. You've heard it here first. One last thing, in case anybody wants to go and look you up on the website, give us the website.
Sure, it's wouldyoubildit.com. That's WOOD. So WOODYOUBUILDIT.com.
All right, wouldyoubildit.com? The answer is yes, you would. Thanks so much. This has been great.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.